Welcome everyone to the Teacher Training Info Session 2024. This will be our 7th year running the program at Left Coast Power Yoga. So we'll start with some intros and then move into some information and some questions. So just to get the ball rolling, my name is Rachel Rajput. This is my 7th year co-leading the teacher training program, and it's our 10th year, almost 11th year of being open at Left Coast Power Yoga here in Oakland, California. We have graduated classes of between 12 and 20 students since 2018, and we are excited to ramp up for our 7th year and our best year yet. So just to look at my agenda here, benefits of a yoga teacher training, right? People say this to me often, and it's not necessarily just that you want to become a yoga teacher, although many people do, but it's also just a really wonderful journey to take a deep dive into your own yoga practice. So I like to say that as adults, we don't really get the opportunity to submerge ourselves in study very often anymore. We did maybe as kids and up until college and maybe grad school, but to really dive into not just the study of yoga, but also the study of yourself. You learn a lot about yourself. This energetic work tends to remove blockages and clear the way for lots of things to happen, right? Sometimes they're welcome, sometimes they're a little scary, but we really come out truly changed after this experience. And I'm so grateful that so many of our students or past teacher trainees have either gone on to join the studio as teachers or just continue to practice at the studio as students. So we get to see them on this lifelong, hopefully, journey, right? So I lead the sequencing portion of the training, and the way that that manifests is it's an every Thursday night component. We meet in person at Grand Avenue, the Grand Avenue studio, from 6:30 to 7:45, and we work sequencing, not just in the broader sense, but we're actually working towards a 20-minute yoga class that you'll teach to the group as your practical final exam. So that starts on day one when we get comfortable doing voice warm-ups and getting in front of the group, and continues all the way through our 5-month journey until you have sequenced and created your own mini class that you'll then share with the group and with us as the teachers in your final exam weekend. So that's my section. That's the Thursday nights, and those run every Thursday for 5 months. I'm sorry, from first weekend in January. Actually, it'll be the second week of January. The Thursdays start all the way through the first week of May. And then Whitney is my partner in crime, our other co-leader, and is going to let you know a little bit about herself and about the alignment and anatomy. So let me just do a pin really quick. So there's me, I'm pinned, hi. And then I'm going to go ahead and switch the pin over to Whitney. There we go.
All right. Hello, everybody. So, when Left Coast first opened, there were two owners, Rachel and Wendy, and they both had a dream to open a yoga studio and then realized that they had a different vision for what they wanted the studio to look like. And I was the first teacher that they hired. And I remember we were all talking about it, and I was like, well, let me put it like this. If Rachel takes over the studio, I'm going to stay. But if Wendy takes over the studio, I'm not going to stay. And it wasn't anything against Wendy. It was just I felt a connection with Rachel and have appreciated her capacity for leadership and all that she's done for Left Coast for the years that it's been open. I am truly honored to get to work with her, even as I even as I live in Texas. I We were wondering how it was going to work for us to keep working together when I moved to Texas, and then COVID happened, and we were like, oh, COVID actually made it very easy because all of a sudden we were on Zoom. Everyone was on Zoom. And so my relationship with Left Coast, which I thought was going to be truncated and I was so sad about, actually was very organically able to continue. And because we did the teacher training online a couple of times when we were in lockdown, and that's a whole nother story, but a very powerful journey, a part of the Left Coast training. So it's seen some different eras. I would say with all things, every year that we do this training, I am more pleased and proud of the work that we do together and um, the capacity that I see in the students, the people, the trainees that decide to take this training. When we, our first year doing it, I look back and I'm like, we did our best. Okay. And then after 3 years, I really started getting clarity about how I wanted this to look, my section to look. And I worked on developing a manual for over the course of a couple of years. And then now give y'all a manual that I've developed, a part of the alignment and the anatomy section that I feel is cohesive and something that y'all can hold in your hands and look through. And it, instead of kind of these ideas of fragmenting that maybe my first couple of years I was really able to tailor in. And I think one of the most powerful parts of the Left Coast teacher training is that if, and you need not want to be a teacher to take the training and to receive amazing benefits. However, if you want to be a yoga teacher, Left Coast gives you the steps to become a yoga teacher. And I can't say that for all trainings, including some trainings I've taken where I learned a lot, but then I graduated and I was like, now what do I do with myself? And I think that that's the Thursday night meetings that Rachel has really teach people how to teach. And I've seen students who come in and are like, I want to teach, and I can't imagine getting up and talking in front of a room full of people. So while I would love to, it's never going to happen for me. And then it does because she is so good at helping people find their voice. And then in the time that you'll spend with me, I really give you the information that seems like behind the scenes of how am I going to even know what to say? I don't know. And so we go through together, and it's such a fun learning discovery process. And one of the great things about yoga is there's not a lot, not that there's none, but there's not a lot of sitting around. It's we're in our bodies, we're getting up, we're getting to do yoga as we learn yoga. And I am so honored to, so what I do, because I live in Texas, is I fly out once a month and do an intensive weekend with y'all. So it's all day Saturday and all day Sunday. And we've tried different things. And I have found that really saturating y'all in the alignment and the anatomy really helps keep it contained versus a little bit here, a little bit there. It's we do big chunks of parts that go together, and we're able to really, really dig in. If I introduce something on Saturday that doesn't quite doesn't make sense, I know I pick the more challenging things on Saturday. We can pick it up and continue it on Sunday. So we've really got a great system going that I'm so happy to be a part of.
Thank you. So sweet. This manual that she created is amazingly profesh as well. It's a life's work. So we're so lucky to have that. We have our training manual that we've compiled with a lot of handouts and things like that. And then we also give you Whitney's manual, which is going to be so helpful for your teaching career, I really think. So thank you for that. So that leads me to talking about the other instructors. So as we mentioned, I'm with you on Thursdays. Whitney's with you every other weekend, which is every other weekend. So it's once a month because we meet every other weekend, right? And so on this other weekends, I won't say other again, the concurrent weekends, you have a mix of other Left Coast instructors, and actually some of them don't teach at the studio anymore because they've moved, but they are the people that we find in our community to be the most highly passionate and trained and in love with their own fields. So Malka does the section on mantra and bhakti. Bhakti is the yoga of devotion, chanting musical accompaniment and the mantra of the gods and goddesses. Adam is a former Left Coast instructor who lives in LA now, but he also comes back and he does an Ayurveda section, pranayama, and bandhas, so the locks in the body. We also have Taco joining us this year as our history and philosophy of yoga expert, which is amazing. Super lucky to have him. And then we I haven't confirmed yet, but we have a guy who comes and does Sanskrit for a really fun workshop. So you'll have around however many I just said, 5 or 6 people that'll be on your journey, and each of them we feel are the most highly skilled and passionate in their field that we have in our community. So they love what they're talking about, each of them, and love to present it. Welcome, Lindsay. Hi. Thanks
Hi,
for
I'm sorry, I
coming.
had a union meeting, so I'm
No, you're
sorry I'm
fine.
late.
And we're recording it so you can watch the beginning later. Not a big deal.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. I was just gonna, and welcome Beth too. I chatted hi to you, but I just wanted to say hi in real voice too. So,
Hello.
hello. Next thing is schedule. So, like I said, we begin January, we go through May. We try to keep it kind of one semester of a school year, if that makes sense to people's brains. We know people travel a lot in the summer, so we finish the program mid-May, and then we're going to have a one-day optional retreat to kind of nourish and share some time with your fellow teacher trainees after the graduation, just enjoy each other's company. And then as for the weekends, they are going to be from around 10:30 to 5:30, and we are not going to confirm the location yet because we don't necessarily know until the end of December because of classes and renters, but it's often at the Laurel Studio both days, Saturday and Sunday. Tends to be a little easier for parking over there and things like that. So we are not doing an early start this year. We're going to get started around 10:30, 10:45 in the mornings. You'll have a 3-hour chunk and then a lunch break and then another 3-hour chunk and be done for the day. So there will be 4 3-hour sections over the course of the weekend. That's every other weekend. And then you'll have the Thursdays to kind of tie it all together. In addition to that, there are some short homework assignments that Whitney usually assigns, and we use Google Classroom so you can keep everything really organized. We put all the assignments there. You can upload anything there. They're not necessarily like long written assignments. It's
They're
usually,
not.
go
It's
ahead.
just I don't want to go a whole month without y'all at least thinking a little bit about alignment or anatomy or some portion of that. So it's more just to like touch base than some big like test thing.
Yeah, it's not to be scared of, and it's going to be useful. And then we do ask that you take 2 classes per week at the studio. Generally, that's indoor classes. You're also welcome to use it on our outdoor classes or workshops. And that just keeps you in the flow of our teachers, what's going on in the yoga community that you're a part of, in doing this program. As you get towards the end, we're asking you to do 3 audits of classes. So instead of just going and taking the class, we're going to ask you to be the weirdo sitting in the corner and jotting down notes over the course of the class. And that'll be, just let the teacher know that you're doing teacher training. And those can be really enlightening because you get to really focus on the teacher sequencing and why did they put something after another instead of just going into your yoga brain and flowing. And you can do more than 3 of those, but we recommend 3. And I think that's it for the time commitment, right, Whitney? Did I miss anything?
Mm-hmm.
The final exam weekend, you'll be required to come one day or the other, and we'll do our practical finals. We'll each teach our 20-minute class, and you'll immediately afterwards get feedback from both myself and Whitney in front of the group. And all the rest of the group is not allowed to give feedback, but they are kind of the bodies supporting you in your class. And we call these the little baby skeletons of classes that later get developed into actual yoga classes. So it's kind of sweet to see them from their infancies. Great. Which brings us to it. Well, does anyone have questions on schedule before I jump ahead, or the instructors? Or you can also put things in the chat. Cool. So tuition, payment plans, and scholarship opportunities. So the tuition, if you put down, well, let me back up. We do have a payment plan in place. It is 5 payments, depending on what your payment is. If it's before October 1st, it's 5 payments that will total 3,000. If it's after October 1st, it will be 5 payments that total 3,400. So I can't exactly do the math in my head, but you can figure it out. And those are broken up over, I believe it's around 1 month increments. So you can pay in full, of course, if you wish. Most people prefer it's the deposit and then the 4 monthly payment plan. We like to say, or I like to say, that yoga can be, of course, it's not maybe the most lucrative career choice you could ever think of, but a lot of people use it as a really nice secondary source of income, whether they're 9 to 5ers, whether they're massage therapists, whether they're whatever. I mean, some people are definitely full-time yoga teachers, but as you go on your journey as a teacher, as a paid teacher, depending on where you are, if you do wish to be a paid teacher, you can expect to make anywhere from $30 to $100 to $150 per class. So I like to say that the $3,000 or so investment, you're teaching maybe 50 classes over the course of your first year teaching, and you've kind of already made back your tuition. So it's a really nice investment in yourself. And we also are registered with the Yoga Alliance, so you can get accredited through YA, which is the credentialing body for yoga. It's called the Yoga Alliance International. We'll let you know about all that, and that's something that you can put onto your yoga resume and, say that you're certified through Left Coast through the Yoga Alliance, and that comes with the program. Yes, so that brings us to absences. Valerie just mentioned she will miss the first weekend, which is completely fine. We do a lot of intros and things like that on the first weekend. So that is actually a good weekend to miss. Not that I'm going to say any weekends are good weekends to miss. We allow one full weekend to be missed without any sort of penalty, but above and beyond that, we ask you to do makeups with the teacher that you're missing. So for example, if it's a Whitney weekend, we would have you book a couple of private lessons with Whitney. Her rate is $100 an hour. Those can be done over Zoom. So depending on if you miss one day, how did we structure it, Whitney? One day was one lesson, or it depends on what the material was?
It depends on the material. I would say if you have to miss like one whole day, we can do a 1 hour makeup, most likely. And so it'd be $100. If like you miss a half day here and then next month you miss a half day here, those would probably be better. Those might need to be broken up into 2 sessions because they're going to be on very different topics. I like to, if you do have to miss my section, I really like to make it up in person on the weekend that I'm in there, just because I'm an in-person kind of girl. Zoom it serves its purpose, but I found that when it's just about the body, I need to see the body. I need to be up there close. So I like to make those up when I'm in town, which makes it a little limited on like when my availability is, but I go to great lengths to maybe do it earlier, do it later to meet your schedule with what you need.
Or she usually comes Thursday, so the studios are free like Friday during the day. We've done a lot of makeups and stuff like that. It just depends on the student's schedule as well. It's definitely not a problem, especially if you know the dates in advance. And then things with me,
and then one more thing,
Yeah.
if like you and another person happen to miss the same day, y'all can both come together and split it $50. I just, it's 1 hour of my time. If it's 4 people dividing it up, I really don't, unless y'all give each other all some sickness at the same time. I don't see that many people missing, but
I think we decided we didn't want it more than 2 because otherwise it's just going to cut it too short. But 2 people,
okay.
Fine.
Yeah, 2 people. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then with the other instructors, again, Adam is just coming in for that one probably day or weekend that can be made up with him over Zoom or et cetera, et cetera. For me, on the Thursdays, I am going to be taking attendance, but since that's kind of a journey that we're all going, you don't have to specifically make that up. I'm just going to ask that you don't miss more than, I think I said 3. It's all in the contract over the course of the Thursday. So we do need you there, but for those Thursdays where we're practice teaching, don't worry about making them up. Just don't miss too many or you're going to fall behind. Does that make sense with the makeups? Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yes.
Sorry, Rachel.
Yeah.
Can you, maybe I missed this, but can you say again about the Thursdays? So I understand that every other weekend, Saturday and Sunday, but then the Thursday, is it also every other Thursday?
It's every Thursday. So that's from 6:30 to 7:45, and that's where you actually practice teach to the group and get broken up into small groups. So this is leading
every Thursday for the course of the
5 months,
the whole
from
time.
January through
Okay.
first week of May. Yeah. And that's at Grand, and that's so that you can have practical, because you'll see that these weekend sessions are so information heavy. There's not really time for you to get up there and practice teach and do all the stuff that you need to do, like fall on your face and flub your cues and forget what you're going to say 100 times and da 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 da. And we just practice that so much in groups together that it's second nature by the time you're going to be in front of a real scary group of live human beings that are not your teacher training cohorts, right? So that's why we do those Thursdays.
And this is something that we have developed over the years. Like, we didn't do as much practice teaching at the beginning, and then we realized the more practice teaching we give the trainees, the more confident and more prepared they are when they're finished with the program. And that's, I mean, it's so many things. I used to be a lawyer, not anymore, but I remember I graduated from law school and I was like, I have no idea how to be a lawyer. What is happening? Like, we just don't want that to happen to y'all. The Thursdays really help make that, not an issue.
Yeah, I mean, people are really well prepared after this program. I will say that. And in my teacher training, I think Whitney mentioned this earlier, I was not really prepared. I loved my training, not slamming it, but we taught one 30-minute class. No, not 30-minute. We taught one 60-minute class between 12 people. So my section was like 3 minutes long. So I think I taught cat cow and pranayama or something, and I was like, how in the world am I going to teach a whole class after I've only learned? So we really, uncomfortable as it is, make you teach every section of class. We're going to teach you the arc of the class, opening hip poses, closing hip poses, leading up to your peak pose, and then integrating, and then taking it down. So all of those little ingredients. And then also something really cool, I know, sorry to cut you off, Whitney, is people always ask me this, are we going to teach you how to teach in different settings? What if you want to teach trauma-informed yoga? What if you want to teach at the VA center? What if you want to teach at the YMCA? What if you want to teach kids? We touch on all of that. It's not just a power yoga teaching program. It's not like you're only going to learn how to go teach in a 90-degree studio and teach a vinyasa flow class. I won't say that we get incredibly in-depth into any of those styles, because we consider the 200-hour like a sampler platter, where you're going to sample all these different things, and then perhaps later you go on and do a yin training, or you do a teaching kids training. But we want you to get a little bit of each of those, right? So you can kind of like find out what sparks you, what lights you up, what you want to continue with. I'm going to go on mute right now.
No, and then I was going to add, a lot of people have fear of speaking in front of people or getting up and not knowing how and feeling that vulnerability. And all of that is a part of the process. So if you're thinking like, well, I don't need to practice teach because I don't want to teach yoga, it's like, oh my gosh, we confront so much of ourselves when we're getting up and we're doing this process. So it's all valuable for whether you go on to teach or not.
All right. So I realized I had left you pinned. Sorry about that. I'll pin myself now.
Geez. Sorry, guys.
Does anyone else have questions about Skip? Did everyone get the application through email or through paper copy at the studio so far? Okay, well, I can send that out. You need it, Charlotte?
Oh no, I think I have it, but
okay.
I have a question about just like missing classes. So even if you just miss like one class or one weekend, can you get like resources from it or something, like without having to pay the 100, even,
we're not filming them on Zoom anymore. It was just too burdensome, but you will get the teacher training manual with the chapters about that. And each teacher provides a good amount of handouts and things like that.
Again, also, to that point, like if it's the one weekend that you're allowed to miss, I sit around during that 1 hour lunch. I don't go anywhere and I sit there. And if you want to be like, hey, I like, I recommend you go to someone who was there and like ask them what they learned. Can you see their notes? And then if you have some questions, I more than $100. I want you to learn this information. So that's the most important to me. So if you like want to pick my brain in between things, I'm very available.
I appreciate that. Yeah, if I was going to do it, I definitely wouldn't miss more than one weekend, but I'm kind of a nerd about learning too. So I would just want to, have information as well.
I'd say the average is people usually miss one weekend. I wish I could say it was perfect and everybody came all the time, but life happens. And again, I'm also happy
like if you miss shoulder weekend, I will like pay you $100 to please learn the information. Like shoulders are so important, please. So I'm like, I love teaching, and I love that you are so interested in learning. Like, yay.
I have a question, a logistical question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just, it's like a just in case question, but I'm just wondering if there's any flexibility with like, if I get stuck one evening without somewhere for my daughter to go, could she tag along to like something?
Yeah. Can Ophelia come to the Thursday night? Totally. Because that would be the
I just want to,
right?
because if that's like, I would hate to miss because I'm like, because of that,
Yeah. I don't know that my kids have tagged along to the Thursday, but they definitely tagged along to things over the time and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I mean,
okay.
Whitney and I are both parents,
to put that out
so
there.
we understand. So is Taco, so everyone understands. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That is one thing that has changed since we started this training. Before we started this, we had no children. People were like, we have kids. I'm like, what? And now we're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I just had Luna the first year, and
you did have her the first year?
Yeah, because it was 2018. She was born in 2016, so she must have been.
And then remember Trisha had just had a baby, and she needed to pump, and we like made room for her to be able to like pump when she needed to. Yeah.
First year we had a nurse take the teacher training during her maternity leave. Yeah. Because she was like, she wanted to do it so bad, and her work schedule was so crazy that she took, I think maybe it was a little less, more condensed then. Maybe it was only 3 months then or something. But yeah, and she had to take breaks to pump. Yeah, so totally flexible with that stuff. All right. Other questions? Anyone want to make a comment? Oh, what would you say is unique? That's a great question, Daniel. What's unique to our program that differentiates it? I would say that we're just really probably the most practical. This is feedback I hear from other students because, of course, I've only done my 200-hour and then I did 300-hour at Yoga Tree. But 300 hours is a lot different because you generally do modules with different teachers that are 1 week each, and there's not necessarily a through line. So for example, I did a week of prenatal and a week of alignment with one teacher and then a week of alignment with another teacher and da-da-da. So in terms of 200, I would say that we are probably the best preparing of you for actually getting into a classroom full of human beings and teaching. A lot of them can be pretty philosophy heavy, which is also great, but you only have 200 hours. So we're definitely the most alignment and anatomy heavy of any program I know in the East Bay. And I feel like that is going to prepare you to teach people and also to keep them safe. Would you agree with that, Whitney?
Yeah. And I've taken 2 200-hour teacher training programs. My first 200-hour, was not taught by experts in their field. They were wonderful people, but not experts in their field. And then the second training I took was only taught by one person who is absolutely considered an expert in the yoga field. So 2 very different things. I would say though, at Left Coast, I love that we're a team of teachers who are each individual experts in our field. And I think that makes it interesting for y'all to get to hear different voices, that you don't have just one person's take on yoga. While I am the alignment and the anatomy section, it is impossible to tease out philosophy from, well, maybe I'll say not philosophy, more like intentionality, mindfulness, the like meat and potatoes or tofu and potatoes of yoga. Even if I'm talking about like a cue that you would give someone on how to keep their shoulder safe in dancer, there's still a conversation around like, how do you make space for everybody in the room? How do you handle a room full of 10 or 20 people with really different bodies so that everyone feels seen? And that's not just how we want to be able to do that as yoga teachers. We want to be able to do that with people in our lives. And so it goes beyond just like, and this is your tibia and this is your fibula. It's so, we're alignment and anatomy heavy because that's what I'm most passionate about. But the reason I'm most passionate about that is because through alignment and anatomy, I'm able to help people feel grounded, understand their bodies, their limits, the integrity of what their potential is, what their limitations are, and embrace that with compassion. And so it's a program that I've had opportunity to be a part of a couple of other programs, and I'm just like, Left Coast has my heart because I just so strongly believe in our format of teachers, a diverse group of people who like you'll connect more with this teacher. Someone will connect more with that teacher. And so I think it's just a great place for everyone to kind of find their nest. Yeah.
And that leads me that I forgot to say that we do mentorships afterwards. So we have semi-private mentorships, which is a small group of teacher training grads mentoring with one of our existing teachers. And then we also strongly, strongly encourage you to teach community classes. So after you've graduated, you can sign up and teach as many as you want, really community classes. The times have switched around. They were on Saturday mornings for a while, then they were in the evening, but it's a time that is usually good for like 9 to 5ers in Studio B in Grand once a week. And those are the best way to sign up. And then if you do the mentorship, your mentor agrees to come to a certain amount of those classes and give you feedback. Because what we found after running the program for a few years was like, but we still need more of a bridge to actually teaching. Like, okay, I passed my final, I taught my 20-minute class. Whew, like check that off the list. How do I get actually more experience in front of humans? And so we offer these classes. They're discounted to the public. People can take them, and it's a way for them to support our new teachers. And so people generally do that we always graduate at the beginning of the summer. And so most people like maybe do that for the summer. And then if they want to teach at Left Coast, we'll do an audition either in the fall or maybe the next year. Maybe they'll do community classes for 6 months or a year. We've had people just hang out and do community classes for like more than a year. And then want to audition when they feel ready. So it's not like we think that after graduation, you're going to be like ready to jump into a class of 20 people and just like bada bing, bada boom. Like there's going to be a long period of time when you're teaching with your notes in your hand, and that's okay. Like you're not going to memorize every cue for the first 10 times that you teach that class. You're going to have your notes. That's just a thing. You're not going to know how to like use music to support what you're teaching and not have it be annoying and loud and bothersome for your first 10 classes. Like you have to just learn these things by doing them. Mm-hmm. Creating a playlist that flows into your peak and then down and doesn't drown you out, right? So there's just more to it than 200 hours can cover, but a lot of that is like practical experience, and we hope that we can like release you from the nest and then support you as you go out there and like fall flat on your face a few times, because that's what we all did at the beginning.
Yes, we did.
What does Liz say? She's like, you have to teach, she says, I think she said 50 or even 100 shitty classes.
Probably.
I think it's 50. I think she's like Liz, who teaches she's subbing and stuff now, but she was our rocket teacher for a long time. She's like, oh, you just got to teach 50 shitty classes. You just do. That's just all it is to it. 50 shitty classes. Anyway. All right. Well, I would love to.
And on that note, like, and if you think that there's not, again, a level of amount of personal self-compassion that we're going to be talking a lot about working on all of that, because it's all great. There's
people going through TT, and I was always like, oh, this is just our program, that people have all these life-changing breakthroughs. Like, we've had divorces, marriages, engagements, leaving a job, getting a new job, quitting all your jobs, deciding to travel the world, going to India, moving to Europe. Like, all of this stuff has come out of teacher training. And I was always just like, oh, well, that just must be us. But I've talked to other yoga studios, and they're like, no, that's getting to know the true self, becoming more close to one's true nature, that comes out in yoga teacher training. And then people are like, screw this job, or screw this fiance, or, make life-changing decisions anyway. So, all right.
how much of
question
the
from Daniel.
anatomy and alignment content is hands-on in a practice versus lecture?
It's kind of
So when
all
you
both.
say hands-on, do you mean hands-on assists?
No, I mean, like how much sitting are we, how much like sitting and taking in are we doing versus like being active and like doing anything? It doesn't
All right.
mean like,
So
are we gonna
this
go to
is
anatomy like touching our spines, or like are we gonna like take notes on like the on a slide deck or something?
all right. So that's a great question. And this is how I feel about anatomy when it's not connected to yoga. Like, basically, I'm like, this is so boring. But if you make anatomy have anything to do within the context of yoga, I'm like, ooh. And that's how I teach. Like, we're not going to at all be sitting there and learning what muscles and bones are called. You will frequently hear me say, I don't care if you know the name of this muscle. All I care about is you know how to teach your students how to access and engage or stretch this muscle. So this is how alignment and anatomy directly relate to moving the body in yoga. So there is some sitting when we read through the manual, but since you have the manual, I will sometimes be like, guys, read this before we get here. We're going to go through it together, but we're not going to sit here and, label where the sartorius muscle is. There's a great book that we have y'all get. It's a required book. It's got beautiful pictures in it. And what I recommend with this book is you get on your yoga mat and you move around on your yoga mat while you're looking at the pictures in this book. Please do not sit down and try to memorize this book. It is flat and in theory, and yoga asana is not theoretical. It's a practice. So it's practical. So yeah, if that answers your question.
Nice.
And I've also had physical therapists tell me that they wish that I was their physical therapy, like kinesiology part of it, because I'm actually able to make what could be very boring stuff like pretty fun, because I love it.
And the format for YTT is you're usually using your other YTT members as your students or as your guinea pigs, right? So you're looking at bodies, people are looking at your body. Like, that might sound scary to you, but it's true. How different bodies do a pose, how different bodies transition out of a pose, how different bodies need to adjust for a pose. That's all part of it, because you're going to see so many different bodies when you're teaching. And we really teach you, Whitney more so than me, teaches you how to read those bodies and see what they're saying, in these poses. Yeah. I love it. The questions just kind of trickled in. All right. That's all right. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. I'll send you this if you want to listen to it again later, take a walk with it, or maybe you didn't hear the whole thing. We start in January, and we have our early bird deadline coming up on October 1st. But remember, that just means you need to put your intention and your deposit down. Doesn't mean you need to pay the whole tuition. I did want to say that there's one scholarship for every 12 registered students. We can also send out that application. That's a completely free scholarship, and we do ask you to be the admin person. So you would help us maintain the settings and communication on the Google group. We have a WhatsApp group that started. We would ask you to help them maintain. So there's some work, that we ask that person who's doing the scholarship to do as part of the teacher training, but it is a no cost option. And if you're interested in that, you can apply. And once we have our 12 paying students, we'll go through the applications and let you know if you've been chosen to receive that scholarship. So, yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Whitney. Thank you so much, yogis. Always feel free to email me. You all have my email, and have a wonderful rest of your night. And we will see you in the studio soon.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.